So this is the other thing I think that is really a struggle or challenge or a problem for a lot of people. So let's say someone, for example, says, Mark, I'm going to launch a podcast. I want this podcast. I'm going to commit to a certain amount of time, but then they end up burning out because they overcommit. What do you say to someone who's like, Mike, I'm doing too many things. I'm burning out. What can I do? Like, what are you going to tell someone in that type of case?
So that brings up the idea of monthly theming to me
Hmm.
and planning out in advance. So there's this quote by Eisenhower saying, when going into battle, I find planning to be useful, but plans useless because you don't know how things are going to react on the other side of the equation. Like I'm a football fan. I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. And as we're recording this, the Bengals lost to the Chargers on a last minute, like the guy missed he missed the field goal. He pulled up lame. He had hit 250 yarders plus up to that point, and he missed a chip shot. You can have all these plans that you put in place, but you can plan for everything, but then all of a sudden something throws you off.
Yeah.
You got to be able to be nimble, and that's the thing that when I kind of created the time crafting methodology, I wanted it to have simplicity, flexibility, and durability in mind. So monthly themes, what I do is I start my year September 1st because my kids go back to school in September. So what I'll do is in the month of August, I call that my planning month, and I will set up plans for the next 12 months. Now,
Mm.
again, people are like, how do you plan that far in advance? I'm like, I just do, but I have the knowledge that I may have to make changes to that. And that has been very evident in 2020.
Yeah,
I had a book that was supposed to,
yeah, I think some
yeah, for
people,
everybody.
yeah, people get scared. I think that they're going to be called a failure if they shift. But I'm with you,
No.
man. You got to be dynamic. You got to change.
And you've got to look at the reality of the situation. Like I have, when I theme my months, I sit down and it takes me about an hour to do my yearly plan. It used to take longer, and I will go, okay, what makes sense at what times of year to do this, both personally and professionally. I think setting up monthly themes for both is a good idea, but start with one. And I mean, so for example, I'm probably not going to focus on gardening in November as a personal theme. I'll focus on it around the time that I actually need to be gardening, right?
Mhm.
Same thing with planning. Planning for me, August is a great month because it's the end of the summer for me. September's the start of my year. So that just makes sense. Things like relationships. And this is, I did a workshop once where someone said, well, wouldn't you focus on relationships all the time? Absolutely, I would. But in that month, I give it even a higher level of focus.
Huh.
So if someone's burning out, rather than say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, because that's what happens is you go, oh, I'm burnt, and then everything falls. First off, um, consistency is king, right? So you want to make sure that you're consistent. And I've fallen prey to burnout many times. I recently just stopped doing my podcast by 2 episodes per week because I felt that it wasn't serving my audience well enough. So I think that putting yourself in a position to say, okay, I want to do all the things, but I know I can't do all the things all at once.
Mm.
So let me look down the line at, like, say June, and make that where I'm going to really focus on the podcast. But Mike, it's September right now. Why would I focus? Because you've got this thing and Christmas and like all these things coming up. You can set the table up until that point and then push for it, because this idea of fear of missing out, there is there's always going to be someone doing something that you think you should be doing at the same time. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. And if you treat it like a sprint, then you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
That's why, when someone looks at like a Gary Vaynerchuk or a Casey Neistat or a Mike Vardy or you, Mark, or any of us, and they go, how did they get to that level? It's not like we snapped our fingers or like, here we are. Like, it took time.
Yeah.
So have some patience, and that way you're going to do it right. And if you feel like you're burning out, don't look at why. Look at, like, sit down, take some time. And I often do this with clients too, is I'll say, take a minute, and I'll say, actually, you know what, we're going to sit here for a minute and do nothing. And they get antsy at about the 25-second mark, because we don't know how long a minute is, because we've always got something going on. So take a minute and just write down all the things you're doing. Write them all down, and then go, what can I afford to delay? Not delete, but delay. Or can I make changes to it? Like, and then if you feel that, and you may want to analyze data and all that stuff for it too, but ultimately burnout is an emotional response to what you've been, like, there's an emotional response to it, and you don't want to make an emotional decision around it, but you don't want to be too overly logical. You want to kind of come up with a reasoned approach to this. So maybe the podcast you do monthly instead of weekly because you just can't make it work on a weekly basis. But because you do it monthly, you have more time to promote it, which means then you're still getting the audience count that you're looking for. So really, it's about, back to my initial thought. What's your intention? To make a podcast. Okay, how are you going to pay attention to it? If you do that, then you're going to see, if you make that list of all the things, you're like, whew, I can't take that on right now. Or, whew, that's the thing that's overwhelming me. Pull it back, scale it back. You can make informed choices when you stop for a second to look at the information.
Yeah, so I'm definitely with you there on getting really clear on all the steps of your process. The sooner you can do that, the sooner you can either eliminate or move around. And again, like every people think of me of this Superman, and Gary Vee is the Superman who just accomplishing things all the time, showing up all over the place every day. Um, but that's because of a lot of the concepts that we talked in here. Once you start executing on these concepts, these time efficiency concepts, scaling, outsourcing, things can be up clear. And again, it's okay to take an off day. It's okay to take a break. You know, have a cheat day.
You,
It's okay. It's not gonna kill you.
you know what I would challenge anyone listening to this or watching this right now to do is go back and listen to the first episode of your podcast, Mark, and the first episode of mine, and then listen to the more recent one,
Yeah.
and then be okay when you start that you're going to have an episode one just like ours.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna or go watch Gary Vaynerchuk's Wine Library TV, the first episode of that, or Casey Neistat's first video. You're going to see elements of what still exists now, but they're just going to get better at it, because that's what, consistent effort applied is what will make your thing better. But like I can tell you right now, just as the week that we're recording this, I'm about to start daily vlogging, and it's scaring the crap out of
I
me
would be scared. Yes.
because I'm, but I know that it's going to help me, because, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped doing the bi-weekly or the twice weekly episodes of the podcast. I'm like, I can't do that because I want to do more videos. So how do I do what I was doing for that podcast? Oh, I can just take it and make it video.
Right.
Oh, but and believe me, I looked at this list. I'm like, ooh, it's daunting. But I've been doing the daily writing. The daily vlogging is something I want to tell stories. I want to do it in a different way than other productivity channels are doing it. So it's something I'm committing to. But that meant I had to turn a whole bunch of other things aside. I had to say, nope, 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 because this thing matters to me. So that's the thing, is you got to find meaning in what you're doing, and you got to figure out why. Like, don't just start a podcast because everybody else is starting a podcast. Don't just, start a vlog because everybody's doing a vlog, which, by the way, not everybody is doing anymore because of burnout. So figure out a way that you can do it in a way that's going to make sense to you. And then remember that you're not going to be as good as you want to be, and you're going to be your own toughest critic. Even once you get really good at it, you're always going to find something. And take this from someone who also used to perform stand-up comedy and improv and stage stuff. You will always come off that stage, finish that thing going, oh, I could have done this, or oh, I could have. You're always going to do that. So just be okay with that. Just be okay with that and keep moving things forward.
Yeah. Start doing, start failing, start learning. Love it. Listen, you can find out everything that Mike's doing at theproductivityist.com. Go there, get educated, improve your life. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.